I'm fascinated by trees. I love trees. But that's not what we're doing. We're not doing this one. All I'm using is a board here to orientate myself around this canvas board that's underneath. And what we're going to do today, what I'm doing, is I'm going to show you a really nice method of using masking tape and a cutter in the beginning. And I'm going to pull the masking tape out, and I'm going to be cutting little strips, different varying widths and sizes with my cutter, some really thin and some a little bit thicker. And we're going to be doing a Gustav Klimt painting using masking tape. So I'm putting that one in. The really important part is this level that happens here. You're going to have levels that go up, and that'll give you the perspective that takes you into the painting. So we're going to do some, I'm doing some quite heavy, and it goes right down through the bottom of the painting. And we're going to be doing a lot of these trees and then using paint over the top of the masking tape. And stick with me and you'll see at the end what the outcome is. Try to get your tape roughly straight, but it doesn't have to be perfectly straight. Think about a poplar forest. So some of the tape is going to be high, the base of the tree is going to be high at this point, which I'll indicate in a minute. And some of the trees are heavy and thick, and some of the distant trees are going to be very, very thin, and it'll give you this feeling of this perspective that we're trying to get. In some way, I'd like to get the trees to be very vertical, and it's going to become quite complicated in this part here, where there are tiny little pieces of tape, and I'm not even cutting the tape at the bottom here, getting it like really like a rough end there. So I've cut a whole lot of masking tape, and now I'm going to pull it off the table. Well, cut it on the table. You can hear the sound of it coming off, and then I tear it, and I'm going to put it in there. So there's one. Try and get your tape to sit firmly, but you don't need to have it sticking to the board so much that the tape pulls the paint off. So you can see here, let me show you how my bases of the tree, it's roughly there, and then there, and then there. So it's going up at this kind of angle, then it comes down again, and you have all this activity happening, and then we do the fun part, and that's with the paint. So I want the tape to sort of sit down on the board, but it doesn't need to stick to the board so much that it destroys your board or your canvas. So what I'm going to do is continue with this and then show in the video the finished tape part, and then we're going to paint. We can see how the forest is kind of developing its own style. What I want to point out here, try and vary your trees, thick and thin, and working in little clusters of 3, always very good. I always say cluster of 1, 3 and 5 and 7. Those are the clusters in any composition, and try not to be too regular with the spaces in between the trees. So these pieces of tape are going to become trees at the end. Once we paint over it, and you'll see how that works, we pull the tape off. I'm just pressing the tape down a little so that it the paint doesn't creep underneath the tape. But already we can see how the trees are actually developing. Now what I think I'm going to do, just pulling another piece of tape off here, cut it onto my table. I'm going to almost double up on a tree here. I'm going to double up on a tree, and this one, as you can see, is going to become really close to you. It's going to become, in perspective, it's going to become close to you. Now that's going to be, yeah, now that's cool. It's just going to be a heavier tree. It goes right through the painting. There's my edge, and here's the bottom edge, and it's going to go right through the painting, which means this tree is sitting close to you. This tree is sitting really close to you, and then it dots away in that perspective that we were talking about. Now Gustav Klimt was very fascinated by pattern and design. You must check him out. A fascinating artist, very decorative, and he was obsessed with trees. He's got lots of trees and lots of portraits, beautiful portraits. You know the painting, but you might need to just go and follow up on his method and a little bit of the history. Now, I'm kind of happy with this area. This area is a little bit regular. Spaces in between here are a little bit too regular. So what we're doing is you're looking at the positive spaces where the trees are sitting, and then you're looking at the negative spaces where you can see through the trees. You can see the background of the trees. So now just think about where to put this one, and maybe we angle it slightly like that. So I've got that angle. Trees do whatever they want to do, and there's another angle out here. So I'm getting a perspective feel there, and I'm getting a perspective feel there. And we're almost ready to apply the paint. So we're going to thicken up the paint slightly so that it doesn't drip underneath the tree line. And this is the fun part, because we're going to give a panel of color that side, and we're going to give a panel of color there. I always like working in threes. So we're going to work a darker bottom, darker underneath, and lighter at the top, maybe more color at the top, and more neutral in the center. And then we're going to pull the tape off, and all of a sudden you'll have a forest. So a really easy thing to do, a nice project. As always, slightly abstract and fun to do. So let's leave that for now, and we're going to mix up our paint. You can really paint any color you like. I'm going to try and keep within this borderline, so that the accent happens on these pieces that are coming out of the border, and the pieces at the top, of course. And we're going to also concentrate on the far distance, which is going to be light coming through the trees at the far distance. That's what I want to do. And we're not paint. You can paint it any color you like. That's the fun part. In fact, what we will do, what I'm going to do today, is I'm going to paint it the color that I'm thinking, that I've described, and then I'm going to maybe layer it with another color, and then we see how far we can take this project. It's really, really easy and fun to do. The principles of art are actually pretty constant and not really complicated. So what I'm doing with a piece of charcoal, I'm going to try and divide my page up into threes again. So very lightly, I'm just going to put a line across here so that you can see what I mean. And you can see already how the development of our forest is coming. So we've got this split, 1, 2, 3, then we've got a cluster here, we've got an opening here, we've got a kind of cluster here. I might want to put a small tiny little piece in here, because this is a little bit regular, and I don't want regular. This is nice, I like it, it's working nicely. And this little angled, and that little angle, I might put an angle across here, very slightly. So let's do that, I'm going to cut another piece of masking tape and I'm going to put it in there. What I've done is I've found my angle. I'm going to cut right across here, cut right across there at a very slight angle like that. Stick it down. This bottom, the bottom of the trees here is really important because it tells you where the tree is, how far away the tree is. So we got this coming really close and got these pieces that are going far away from you. And that angle is really nice. I like that. It kind of clusters these trees together, clusters these trees together, and clusters these together. And then the bottom of your masking tape is going to tell you where the tree is. So what we do now is we're going to mix up the paint. I'm just going to put another angle in there. I'm going to put another angle in there to cover this corner. Okay, there's our tree, there's our forest, and now we're going to mix up the paint. Mix up the paint, and absolutely anything can happen as we go along. But a principle of art is that this would be warmer, this would be lighter, and then this would be cooler, the colors. So it's greens and blues and that type of color on the cool side. I want these pieces to come in as light that is piercing through the trees, and then this would be the shadow area here. But it's still a color, it's not black. But you can really do anything you like, whatever color you like. Just have fun with it, and you can do it 100 times, and every one of them will be completely different from the other. Now we know that yellow and blue make green, but a suggestion is raw sienna. Raw sienna and blue make a lovely dirty green, almost natural, like a natural green color. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from the top, and I'm going to use a really big brush. So the whole idea is to have a little bit of freedom to do what you want to do. So the top of the painting is going to be in this kind of fashion. I've got ultramarine, I've got raw sienna, and I've got white. And I'm going to try not to mix it into one color. I'm going to try to keep the color separate on my brush. So I've got one side of the brush like that. Then I'm going to turn my brush over. I'm going to pick up the next darker color, which is the raw sienna, not mixing it too much. And then I'm going to touch it into the blue, so that we've got a little bit of a speckled effect here. I'm going to take it really easy. I'm going to see how it goes. And I'm not painting this way. I'm going to be painting that way because I don't want the paint to go underneath the tape. And I am going to I don't even know if it could be described as impressionist, but I'm going to get a little bit of variation here. And it's not a straight line. This is not a straight line. I've already gone over my border, but that's not a problem because we're going to border it. I'm turning my brush over. I want this light coming into the center, coming through the center part. Then I turn my brush back over again, and watching the spaces in between the tape, and not too heavy. The paint is not too heavy. Because I don't want the tape to be glued down to my surface. So I'm going to just go around there. Let's get a bit of light in there. You can do anything you like. That's the fun part. It's really a fun project, because you could color this anything you like. It doesn't matter. And it will still read as a forest. So I'm going to just take this down here, and we've got blue coming in. Okay, while it's wet, I'm going to turn it over again. So there's a pretty neutral, soft color that's happening here, which I'm enjoying. I like this light part here. This is really cool. And this light part here. And I might just copy that and do it again up here. So there we go. We've got a bit of a thing going, and I'm liking it a lot. Picking up a bit more white and working all the way down, and eventually this is going to be really dark. I want this to be dark at the bottom, giving the weight to the painting. By the way, I'm using acrylic paint, so it dries very quickly, and which means that you can work quite fast. With it. Now, at this point, I'm looking at the background behind the tape and trying to imagine or visualize the colors that would occur behind a forest. Now, I just want to indicate something quickly. If I take a piece of tape off, I've got that effect. Okay, so we're going to get back to that now. I'm going to put that back, and I'm going to get a dark area here, and then I'm going to warm this part up here, this foreground. So let's see what happens. I'm not a fan of solid black, so what I do is I like to mix my black with another color. Just a tiny little bit of black in there, and ultramarine blue, and then our raw sienna, which happens to be on the palette at the moment. And I'm going to darken this panel that comes across here. I'm going to darken this panel, and again you vary everything. I don't like regular, like to vary it and make it an interesting, every angle, the horizontals, the verticals, vary everything. Even this line is too straight here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint it still going in the direction of the tape, and there's going to be a high contrast here. So there's a high contrast, light and dark, and then when the tape comes off, it's going to be even a higher contrast. What I'm trying to demonstrate is that it's so easy to do. It's so easy to do, and it's so effective. It's really, really cool. Now I'm going to, let me see, I've run out of paint. Doesn't matter. I'm going to vary this line. Almost imagine yourself in the forest. And you see these lines that are coming across this way and across this way. So we come back to it, and there's that bird again. It's a garden studio, so you will find that there will be all sorts of bird sounds in the background. It's just too wonderful, too beautiful. I've added an orange to my palette, and using the same brush, so that it's actually that the mixing of the paint is going to be, it's going to work together. I haven't dipped this in water at all. I've just created a warm, burnt, dirty color. I'll have to go this way, so I don't want my tape to lift, and get more detailed at the bottom here, like that. Now there's a bit of a bounce happening here, so it's too strong, so I'm going to just put some of this color up here, so that we got this angle and we got that angle, and I'm going to put some of this color up here, and it darkens. I've just flipped my brush over so that I've got a darker area, and it's almost done, except I'm looking at it and I want white in here. I want stronger white in there. What I'm doing now is I've just squirted out a solid white, and I've changed my brush to get more detail, and I'm going to put some white pieces in here along a line, and also get some white pieces in here, which is distance. So we're actually doing exact opposite. Normally your distance and your shadows and the holes in your painting are going to be dark, but what I'm doing now is relying on the lightness of my trees to be the contrast to the painting. This is still wet, so I can actually mix it up, and it's really cool. And I'm following the tape again. Don't cut across this way, because it's going to want to go underneath the painting, underneath the tape, sorry. And let's vary it. Let's put a bit of light in here. So we ongoing. You toggling between light and dark, and that's more important than color. This could be purple, it could be yellow, it could be orange, it could be whatever, but concentrating on the light and dark of the painting rather than the color, and always varying it. Now we're nearly ready to get the magic in here, and that is to pull the tape off and see what happens. And then the painting may be finished, or we need to work on it a little more, which is fine. I think the main thing is just to have fun. Just to have fun, and try not to make anything out of it. Just let it work on its own. But we can vary this here, give it a variation. We can vary this here, always working on the thirds. I'm always concentrating on the third line. So there's a third line there and there. There's a third line there and there. Maybe we get a little bit of white down here, because that's the third line and that's the third line. So we can put some really strong highlights in here, and you see how it starts to become a landscape. Well, there's a car alarm in the background, but that's just the way things go. What I've got is a little yellow and white, and that yellow is one of the most visible colors. You'd imagine that it would be red, but it's not red, it's yellow. That's why the edge of your road when you're driving is yellow, because that's the one you see the most, and it's a beautiful color. I mean, all the colors are beautiful. But what I'm doing here is I'm bringing my foreground right close to me. So we got this feeling of neutrality there, and then it's coming towards you here. And yellow is a very important color. It's one of the primary colors, of course you know that, but so much can be done with yellow, where red goes pink and blue goes light blue. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to bring this a little bit forward with a touch of yellow. And as we said, you can actually do any color you like. Any color you like. I'm going to dip this into the water, and I'm going to start taking this off. So there's my first tree, and I'll start picking this off. That's a little bit high, but doesn't matter. And take this off, and take this one off. Now I'm going to have to throw this out, because my fingers are getting full of masking tape glue. And now I'll take this one off. Here's my forest. I've got a forest already, and that's how cool it is, man. It's such fun. Just have fun with it. Just have fun with it. And you can copy this one if you want to. I'm totally cool with that. What you do is try your own forest. I'm not sure how cool this is. It's really working. It's so cool. And none of the paint has gone underneath, as you can see. It's all sitting on a very sharp edge. And here we just take this off. I'm going to just continue with this so that you can see how it develops from a bit of a cluttered painting to something that is structured. And that's where, just remember where this masking tape is. But that's about it. That's about it. Now there is one more step. I'm just double checking, look at it from the side and then double check to see that no masking tape is sitting behind. I'm going to let it dry, and then we're going to come in and we're going to detail, I'm going to detail the trees a little more. So, and one other thing I'm just thinking about, be careful of this step, that because you were going over the open masking tape area. Just going to soften this into the tree. Go into the tree with a very firm brush. You see that? You see what happens there? That's just giving a little bit of atmosphere from the background into the tree, and cutting across the tree like that. So the last step is to come back and put a little bit of detail in the trees. These are, I don't know what trees these are. These are popular trees. Huh? Popular? No, poplar. Not popular, poplar. So this is a real fun project. Lovely to, it's a wall hanging, it's an idea. Try it at home, and here's another piece of tape. There we go. Just sorting out. Okay. The background can be as detailed as you want it to be. If you want more definition in the trees, if you want it to be another color, purple, blue, you just have fun. The main thing is these trees start reading as trees in some kind of forest. I'm just looking at this piece here, and this is too high. It's pushing the tree really far back. So what I've decided to do, I'm mixing up a purple with a yellow, which will give me a kind of neutral, because purple and yellow are opposite on the color wheel. And I'm keeping my paint fairly separated. Yeah, I'm not mixing up a whole bunch of paint. I'm just going to give this a little definition and maybe take it down further so that it's closer to, as we were saying earlier on, the principles of art are fairly constant. You know, line, tone, shape, form, and what I'm doing is I'm going to try and separate these trees a little bit. So the darkness of the tree, I'm considering my light coming from the top right hand corner here. And purple with yellow is going to make it a grey. Like a grey would be the best way, not technically, but neutral, a neutral color. And start playing around with these trees that are closer to you, where you will see more detail. So let's get this palette out of the way so that you can see what's going on. And I've got myself a soft brush. Let's say, for instance, this cluster of trees here, which one is coming forward and which one is going back. So let's put that in. Let's just play around. Don't worry about being too accurate with the edge of the tree. The edge is fine. I'm just putting my little finger down here so that I've got a little bit of balance. And I've kind of separated those trees by just darkening or toning the one tree, and the other one is left open. Let's get that same kind of color in there. It's always a good idea to paint your paint stroke in the direction of the tree, the way the tree grows. So kind of like the idea of dragging it up instead of down. We tend to think we must paint it down. Sometimes, of course, yes, but let's get a little bit of dark in here, and we end up separating this tree from the other trees. Give it a dimension. And again, you don't have to be too careful. You can just have fun with it. Just drag it around. Those little nodules, things that happen where the branches have come out. I'm going to put a bit of water in my paint so that it's a kind of wash. And then I come across here, separate this tree, and you would say, okay, don't worry about that tree, leave that. Well, I don't know, we'll see. Let's give it a color and see what happens here. That's the fun part about this project. You can just have fun with it, and you don't have to be too careful. I'm picking up a bit of purple, putting it at the base of the tree, giving it these little marks on like a poplar tree, I think it's called, and separate the trees. And I'm using any color. The purple seems to be the one that I like the most. Try not to make anything irregular. Try and make it all slightly different. And the light is coming from this side. Let the painting talk to you, tell you what to do. Here's this tree is right in the front, so I'm going to carry this line up, carry this line right through, and separate the trees on that side there. Now I'm coming back to this one. Purple and yellow are just a divine, absolutely amazing mixture, because you've got this neutrality that happens between purple and yellow. And there's another separation that needs to happen over here. So which tree do I want in the front is the larger one. Yeah, so we get a little bit of purple again, and we separate these trees. And that's really dark, and that's not a problem. We just keep on going. I love this little V that happens here because it tells you where the trees are. I've still got my old lines there, which is fine. You just go over those old lines. And there's a separation of these two trees. And of course you can go as dark as you want to. You can go as dark as you want to. I'm going to get a little bit of water in here and put a wash on this tree going up, and I put a wash on this tree going up. There's my forest. That's cool. It really is cool. Now I'm going to take it further, and you could stop whenever you want to. You could say, okay, this is done. The whole thing's done. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to give it a little wash. Okay, a little bit more water. A little bit more water. And I give it a wash with a shadow effect that happens here. Maybe a bit too dark. Doesn't matter. You just go on. Just go on. Keep on imagining you're in the forest. And that's the fun part. There's a bit of a wash there with the shadow. Just an indication of the light coming from this side. And it's developing into a painting that is quite possibly something that you could hang on the wall. It's a decoration painting. It's a Gustav Klimt copy. You're not allowed to copy, but you can acknowledge the man and say, or the artist, acknowledge the artist and say, well, this was my inspiration, So we're going to put that up there, and we're going to put that up there, and then I'm nearly finished. And easy to do, very easy to do. What I've done is I've mixed up a purple and a black. A purple with a little bit of black. And I'm giving this, the closer trees, I'm trying to get a little definition. I'm just putting my hand down here, and I've got a flat brush, a flat small brush, and nothing must be the same. It mustn't be regular. Try not to make it regular. Try and vary it, and it gives the painting interest. And even between the paintings, just vary it slightly. But this brings the tree forward. So we've got the little base down here, and just making these little pieces that come out of the tree. And then I'll rub it in a little bit, just kill it a bit, just get it to soften. And then there's a piece there. All kind of keep it on the one side, whichever way the light is coming from. And I'm putting in these little pieces that just make it into an old tree that's had branches that have come out of the tree. I'm rubbing it in with my finger. But what that's doing is it's bringing these trees forward. And we can just add a bit more. I think the point of this exercise is to say how easy it is to create a painting that is plausible, sort of got an idea that it's just an interpretation, actually, really. And that's what all painting is, an interpretation. Now I'm going to take this further. I'm going to take it further by creating a foliage feeling here. So let's see how we can do that. I'm going to use a sponge. Then what I've done here is I've taken a bit of blue, yellow, and there was some wet orange there, and that's neutralized my color. And I'm going to just add a little bit of definition around these corners, but I'm going to test it on my board first. So okay, there we go, it's looking okay. So I'm using a sponge, creating this foliage effect without too much detail, just pressing it down. And I'm going to do it on this side as well. So I've got the blue coming in on the one side, I've got the yellow coming in on the other side, and then I've neutralized it with orange, which is a wonderful neutralizing color. Gives you an effect of gray or neutral color. And just pick up a bit more paint, and what that's done is it's given it super color coming forward. So we're talking about the principles of art are constant. Bright usually in the front, warm usually in the front, cool at the back, and then this contrast of tone that comes into the painting from dark light, dark light, dark light, dark light as we go along. So let's just do that again. I'm working fairly quickly, but you don't have to work quickly, you can take it easy. Work one thing at a time, let it dry in between. This is acrylic paint, so you've got that option, but this certainly gives it a dimension that brings the painting forward towards you. And you can carry on and on and on and build it up, build it up, build it up. Maybe there's a little need for some of this idea down in this corner, which brings this forward again, this forward towards you, close towards you. I haven't really let this painting dry enough because it's a demonstration, video demonstration. So, you know, I don't want to bore you with the length of time it takes. The whole idea is to make it easy to do an exercise. I'm just putting my sponge away there. Now there was something else I wanted to do and I've forgotten what I wanted to do. So let's see what that means. I actually think this is finished. I'm going to show you the finished piece. I'll frame it and then we see what it looks like. I'm not going to take this any further. I think it's fine. It's an exercise, very easy to do. Don't forget the masking tape idea. Then this background can be as detailed as you want it to be. Now I might take it further, but the green of the foliage has really changed the atmosphere of this painting. And that actually was my dad's idea. Crazy as it sounds. He said, why don't you put a bit of green in there? So, wow, man, that's cool. I love it. Okay, easy exercise. Take your mask off, do it at home. Don't worry about it. There's a very strong blue there, which is actually not so bad. I like that. I kind of like this painting. It's really cool. It's just a wall hanging painting. The masking tape was the trick. And we have to credit Gustav Klimt for the idea. Thank you for watching.